All right, part two of the Q&A, guys. Just gonna get right into it. Charlie581 asked, "What do you think is the most valuable thing or lesson you've learned from your schooling and from recent training?" And then he had a little comment. "I always think it's interesting to compare the two areas of learning, but never really hear anyone do both. It's almost always one or the other." So I think he's kind of talking about my academic background with nutrition and exercise, and then kind of practicing what I preach, I guess. Hopefully that's more common than what it seems to be. I'm trying to think of the most valuable. That's kind of a hard. I have an answer in my head, but it's just kind of one of those like really cheesy answers. But I guess the easiest way to kind of explain what I'm thinking about is a lot of people will have success in a certain area of their life, whether it's only academics or maybe it's only, sports, or however you want to define a sport. I'm not here to argue about that. I would consider bodybuilding and stuff like that powerlifting a sport. So whether you're only good at that right now, I think the most valuable lesson that I learned is that the concepts that you can apply, or I guess the best way to explain it, the concepts you can apply to a single thing aren't limited to that single thing. So to give you an example of that, I was a pretty dang good athlete in high school, mostly basketball, a little bit track, but didn't really care about school much at all. I didn't do well at all my first year at school. I didn't really care. I never really put in the effort, and it was just kind of like, why am I not good at school kind of a thing. As you get like C's, and I wasn't failing, but I wasn't doing well. But I find myself having success as a basketball player or powerlifter or bodybuilder or whatever, making progress with that, but not academically. And really, I find out, I think anyone that finds out that has success in more areas than one, that the hard work, that the discipline, that the dedication that you put into one thing, you can also apply that to something else. So whether that's a class you're taking or a relationship you're in or a sport you're involved in, like I said, the concepts of how to be successful for the most part are the same. And again, I know that's not like, I didn't read that in a book kind of a thing, lesson that I learned, but that's probably the most important thing that I've learned over the past few years. And I would say that is probably something that I learned first through training, that I then applied to school and academics and business and stuff like that, that allowed me to also be successful in that area, which I wasn't originally successful mostly at all. So that's probably the biggest lesson or valuable thing that I think I've learned, and I think other people should learn as well. If you're having trouble succeeding or excelling in one area of your life, but you are seeing progress in another area, look at what you're doing with that specific area, and just apply that to whatever you want to be successful in as well. DJ Ware 69 asked a question: do you have anyone at school with you who shares the same interest as you, or even follows the similar YouTubers? Honestly, I don't really follow many YouTube channels. I felt like recently YouTube's just kind of gone to crap. I probably follow a handful of channels, and then I'd much rather, lift myself or enjoy my time with friends and family, or read a book or read research or something like that. But I can't say there's too many people, at least at the school I was just at. There's probably maybe a handful of people that actually took training seriously. Most everybody else was just kind of doing bench press and curls and not really caring. Not that there's anything wrong with that, they just don't have, the similar goals as I did, so it's hard to relate to them, at least with training and nutrition and stuff. My roommate, probably the closest one I can think of, he follows like Kelly Starrett, follows like Ben Rice, maybe Ryan Doris, a handful of guys, mainly just because I did and I'd watch their videos and he would get interested. And outside of that, most of my friends are athletes as well, so they kind of have, I guess, that similar interest of like lifting. I'll say most of my friends that are athletes, though, do not take nutrition seriously at all, which I definitely think is a shortcoming, and which is why I'm trying to get the profession that I am. But yeah, I would say I probably have a handful of friends that think that lifting is important because they see it pay off with their athletics. Outside of people who are actually compete in collegiate athletics, there's probably only 2 people back at school that take their training kind of seriously, and they're both power lifters. Pretty cool guys as well. But no one really follows YouTube as much as I do. Most of my friends don't even watch my YouTube videos back at school. But I think that's kind of cool, I guess, to answer your question in more detail. I think a lot of people don't have enough friends outside of their initial interest. Like maybe if you're involved in business, or if you're involved in science class, or if you're an athlete, you don't have any friends like in the art department or something like that. I think that's kind of a lost art that people always kind of stick to what they're comfortable with. But I kind of like to have friends that don't even know what a macro is, or I kind of like to have friends that don't give a shit how much I can deadlift, because I spend so much time on that already. The last thing that I want to do on a Friday night with some friends is talk about my squat form, because I did that probably, for 2 hours earlier in the day, and I watched the videos, and I'm coaching people how to do it better, and all I'm saying. So for someone like myself, who I kind of live in, all day, every day, kind of do this, it's nice to have some friends that I think outside of the realm as well. Emilio Casaro, maybe? Benefits of reverse dieting: optimal length of time for a bulk or cut, when to bulk or cut, dirty versus lean bulk, and common beginner mistakes. That's a lot of questions. So benefits of reverse dieting, I'll kind of try to keep this succinct. Probably last question on this video. I think the biggest benefit of reverse dieting is, easiest way to explain this is building like your metabolic capacity. A lot of people say this is like bull crap, and your metabolism doesn't slow down that much, and it doesn't really speed up that much. You're kind of born with what you have. But I definitely, I can't provide like any research for this, something like that, but you'll see a lot of anecdotal evidence of people saying that this happens. And I can definitely attest to it myself, where I remember before my contest prep about 1.5 years ago, I was 185 pounds, eating 3,000 calories, tracking pretty meticulously, and now I'm probably 177, so a legit 8 pounds lighter, probably eating at least 3,300 calories a day, and that's pretty loosely tracking, so probably like 3,500, and stronger than I was at that 185 weight. So I'm stronger, so I probably have more muscle, 8 pounds less, eating 500 more calories, and I'm not doing any cardio. I haven't done cardio in probably official, tracking my cardio in over a year. So I think that the main benefit of reverse dieting is that you're going to build that metabolic capacity, allow you to eat more at a given body weight. Also, the slower that you gain weight, the longer that you can do it, and the longer you can stay in a bulking phase or a gaining phase, if you want to talk about, the more time you have to make gains. If you're only bulking or trying to gain weight, or really eating enough to recover for like 6 months, you're putting a cap on how much how much strength gain, how much muscle gain you can get. Whereas like one of my clients, Stephen Hall, just did a bulk for like 2 years. He put on like 25 pounds, but he looks lean as hell. Like he has a 6-pack in his off season. So again, that's another benefit there, where the longer that you can not diet for, obviously the more muscle and more strength you can obtain. So the slower you do it, the longer you're going to do it. If you're gaining 1 pound a week, you can't keep that up for a long time. The optimal length for time for bulk and cut, that's really, really variable. I know Alan Aragon made a comment on one of the videos I listened to him a couple of weeks ago. It's like a 3-to-1 ratio, where it's like maybe a 9-month bulk and then like a 3-month cut, or you can just that's an easy way to think about it in a year's term. But yeah, if you want something like black and white, that's probably a good amount of time. It's going to take a lot more time to build muscle than it is to lose fat. But again, that depends if you're cutting because you're just uncomfortable with how you look and you want to lose 5-10 pounds, you're cutting for a show, or you want to just get like a 6-pack. You really kind of have to define those things. But 3-to-1 ratio is a good place to start for optimal. And again, I hate the word optimal, by the way. There's no optimal length of bulk and cut. That's a good starting place of a 3-to-1 ratio bulk to cut. When to bulk and cut, whenever you really want. I guess if you live in an area with seasons, I'd probably bulk in the winter time, and then cut in the summertime. But again, refer back to your first question. You shouldn't be bulking in the winter, cutting in the summer. Maybe like bulking through a winter, a summer, a winter, and then cutting, you know, like a year and a half bulk, but then you do like a 3-month cut or something. But again, you can do that whenever you want, whenever you have a show, whenever you have a meet, whenever you want to just be lean, just bulk and cut whenever you want. Dirty versus lean bulk. I think I kind of answered that with the reverse dieting. The dirty bulk, you're definitely going to put on strength to put on muscle, but again, I don't think it's as wise as a lean bulk, if you want to call it that, because you're just simply not going to be able to dirty bulk for as long as you're going to be able to lean bulk. I guess you could dirty bulk for like 2-3 years or something like that, but you're just going to get really, really fat, and you're not going to, there's going to be a point of diminishing returns where the weight that you gain is not just going to be advantageous to strengthen the muscle. Lyle McDonald wrote a good article about the P ratio, about the leaner you are, probably the more muscle you're going to put on, and the fatter you get, probably. So, you know, someone who's 5% body fat and they put on a pound, and someone who's 15% body fat and they put on a pound, the leaner individual probably is going to put on a greater percentage of muscle compared to the heavier individual. So that's probably something to look into if you're really interested in that, the P ratio. But overall, I would say a lean bulk is smart for most people. And common beginner mistakes. Wow. I'll just pick out like 3, so I'm not doing this for 30 minutes. Probably number 1 thing that I don't see is tracking their workouts. And again, it's really, really easy to write down what you bench pressed today or what you squatted or something like that. Again, if you don't want to do any kind of programming, and this is kind of what I did for a long time, I would just do some random workouts. And next time I went in, I would try to beat those numbers, do more sets, do more reps, do more weight. That's the easiest kind of progress anyone can make. But again, I probably see not even 5% of people in gyms tracking their workouts. Probably number 2 would be not focusing on compound lifts as much as they should. Everybody does, not everybody, but a lot of people will do curls and triceps and calves and leg extensions, and they do an hour workout without ever really getting like a serious, at least one serious lift in, like a bench press or a squat. Or again, I wrote an article about how you don't need to do a barbell deadlift or a barbell squat, but some kind of variation of these movements, sticking to more compound movements, I guess, is a good way to think about it. So I guess a beginner mistake would be not doing enough compound movements. I guess a third beginner mistake, I would say, in line with that, I guess these are all training mistakes, but thinking they're more advanced than they actually are. So you have people who, you know, can't bench press 185 and they want to do a push-pull legs and train 6 days a week, when they haven't even, like, you know, made it past really, really basic progression that you should win the first like 6 months to a year of training. They're wanting to do, you know, percentage-based work, you know, like even something like 5-3-1 based on percentages, when they probably could just PR 5 pounds every single time they walk into a gym. So those are kind of like the 3 common mistakes. I think I said not tracking your workouts, not focusing enough on compound lifts, and doing workouts and or programming that's not appropriate for their level of not appropriate for a beginner, more appropriate for someone who cannot make progress at such a fast rate. Again, talked about this before, but you need to do the workout program that allows you to get the most amount of gains for the least amount of effort. So those are 3 questions. This is part 2. Back with part 3 in a minute, guys.